Today on Philadelphia Eagles Now, we have the latest on the Eagles offensive coordinator search. 2 candidates getting 2 interviews with Philadelphia. Breaking news as well, as the Eagles appear to have made some changes to their coaching staff, and it happened last year when we didn't even know it during the 2025 campaign, and it has to do with a legendary coach throughout this Eagles organization and over the course of Eagles franchise history. More thoughts as well on Adam Schefter's insight and that cliffhanger that he left all of us with yesterday. What did he mean? What is the big news that could happen with the Eagles next week? Could Vic Fangio retire? We're diving into all of that. First, a programming reminder. Eagles Now hitting the road next week once again. This will be the 4th year in a row that we're bringing you Eagles content from the site of the Super Bowl. We're going to San Francisco, Santa Clara next week. We have a spot on Radio Row once again. We'll be talking to a bunch of people about the latest happenings around the Eagles. This is why you subscribe to the channel, because nobody's built like we're built and nobody's doing what we're doing. All right, a happy Thursday to everybody. Welcome into the show. My name is Chase Sr. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Thanks for hanging out here with me. And as I said off the rip, so much to dive into, so let's waste no time. As far as the Eagles offensive coordinator search, 2 candidates getting second interviews with Philadelphia here. Let's begin with Bob Cooter. So he got a second interview with the Eagles yesterday, in addition to Sean Mannion, and we'll get to Mannion as well, because both of these names picking up a lot of buzz. Of note here, Bob Cooter, Nick Sirianni very close. Will that keep Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman from signing off on the Eagles making him offensive coordinator? We'll certainly see, and that's an interesting storyline here. More on Bob Cooter. Elite last name. 41 years old, played quarterback at Tennessee in college. He's been coaching in the NFL since 2009. Bob Cooter is a candidate here for the Eagles OC job who does have play calling experience from his Lions offensive coordinator tenure. There are, of course, other candidates who the Eagles have interviewed who don't have previous play calling experience. I don't think it's been the end-all, be-all in the Eagles OC search at all. I just think they want to get the best football mind and the best candidate who can get this offense humming. Bob Cooter does have familiarity with this Eagles organization. He worked under Sirianni and with the Eagles in 2021 as a consultant. Then Shane Steichen was the OC for the Eagles in 2022. Jalen Hurts was the MVP runner-up behind Patrick Mahomes. He probably wins MVP if he didn't hurt his shoulder late in the year. Steichen, after 2022, got that head coaching job with the Colts starting in 2023. He's, of course, still the head coach there. And Bob Cooter has been his offensive coordinator since then. And I will add this second note here that people should put some stock in. Shane Steichen is a huge fan of Bob Cooter. Shane Steichen's voice matters in Philadelphia because of what he did with the Eagles as OC. He stepped in play calling duties-wise in 2021. Eagles offense found its stride. They were a run-heavy team that year. Then they become a pass-happy team in 2022. It's the best passing year that Jalen Hurts has had. You think about what Steichen has done with Indianapolis, concepts, play calling, play designs. I do think he's one of the better offensive minds in football. This is a hire for the Eagles that would get ripped by fans. A lot of people in the mainstream national media would mock the Eagles if they were to hire Bob Cooter as offensive coordinator, because they would say, he didn't call plays for the Indianapolis Colts. What has he done throughout his career? All of the top candidates passed up on Philadelphia. I actually think this would be a solid hire for the Eagles. No cap, I'm not lying to you. I actually firmly believe that. His path as a coach. So he played his college football at Tennessee, as I said, and then he got his start as a Tennessee grad assistant in 2007, 2008. Right from there, he goes to the NFL. Colts offensive assistant, 2009 to 2011. Chiefs offensive quality control coach, 2012. Broncos offensive assistant in 2013. The Lions quarterbacks coach in 2014-15. Lions OC 2016 to 2018. During that stretch, that's when he called some plays. Jets running backs coach in 2019-2020. Eagles consultant in 2021, Jaguars pass game coordinator in 2022, and then the Colts OC from 2023 until now. Stephen Holder covers the Colts, and he kind of echoes what I said moments ago, that Shane Steichen will definitely advocate for Bob Cooter to get this OC job. And Shane's voice matters in Philadelphia. He has long wanted him to be recognized for his role in Indy's offense, worth watching. Indy's offense has been pretty good, and they've had pretty suspect, mediocre to bad quarterback play. More notable Cooter experience here. Cooter hurts. Those shirts would go crazy. Offensive assistant for Peyton Manning's MVP seasons with the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts, helped to develop Matthew Stafford early in his career when Stafford was the quarterback for Detroit. He coached Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville in 2022. Lawrence that year did not play poorly at all. Daniel Jones to start last year looked to have resurrected his career. Then he had that broken bone in his leg. Then he suffered that torn Achilles. And he's been a part of coaching top 10 offenses 3 times throughout his career. Mike Garafolo on Bob Cooter. A lot of cross-communication happening here and has been happening between the Colts staff and the Eagles staff. These guys are still super close, and that line of communication probably goes a long way in why JBC has gotten a second interview with the Eagles. As for Sean Mannion, the quarterback's coach for the Green Bay Packers, he too interviewed for the second time yesterday. The Eagles have been very busy. Back in 2021, when they hired Nick Sirianni, they interviewed like 25 head coaching candidates. Their pool, it's been a wide net that they have cast to interview all these offensive coordinator candidates and to land on their next OC, whoever that's going to be. I reached out to Packers insider Peter Bukowski. He said this about Sean Mannion. This went viral on X yesterday. The Packers think he's a future head coach. They love him. Tom Clements was the quarterback Yoda in Green Bay forever, one of the best QB coaches of the modern era. Mannion was the hand-picked successor. He hasn't been coaching long. That's the only thing. He's a really bright young coach, though. Only 33 years old, does have pedigree as a player. 3rd-round pick, 89th overall in the 2015 draft by the Los Angeles Rams out of Oregon State. Most recently played for the Seahawks in 2023. So he's only been coaching for 2 years. Packers offensive assistant in 2024, quarterbacks coach in 2025. And we've been talking about this over the last couple of days. There are obvious pluses here with Sean Mannion. And keep in mind, who was the last quarterbacks coach for the Packers that the Eagles hired? Andy Reid. Worked out pretty well. 14 years, helped to turn around this organization. So Manning has worked under Matt LaFleur. The Eagles would be getting a Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur hybrid, ingredient-heavy type of offense. He's a respected young football mind. He must have really impressed the Eagles with the lack of coaching experience getting that second interview. And I always think it's pretty telling when fans are in shambles, when Packers reporters and beat writers are talking very highly of Sean Mannion, saying this would be a big loss for a Packers organization that churns out so many high-level coaches. The minuses, of course, they're obvious. Limited coaching experience, has no play-calling experience. This hire would be a risk. Matt LaFleur, back in early January on Sean Mannion and the job that he did this past year, unbelievable. Great job. He's got a bright future in this profession, and everybody who I've reached out to, they've said the same thing. They think he's a head coach in waiting here. Notable Mannion experience. We're giving you all the goods here on the show. This is what we do. Played quarterback under Sean McVay. Played quarterback under Clint Kubiak, Kevin Stefanski, and Kevin O'Connell. A lot of people would say those are some of the top offensive minds in the National Football League. Now, he is coached under Matt LaFleur. And this past year, helped to develop Jordan Love. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL as far as quarterback rating. And look, let's give credit where credit is due. Malik Willis didn't work out for the Tennessee Titans when he was drafted out of Liberty. When he's gotten time with Green Bay, he's looked damn good. Who's helped him with that? Sean Mannion. Who could help Jalen Hurts? Sean Mannion. Who is your new top target for Eagles offensive coordinator? Look, at the start of this search, I threw out names like Brian Dable, Todd Monken, Joe Brady. They're all gone, right? Sean Mannion is certainly elevating for me. Still to come, some big news here with the Eagles making a change to their coaching staff. more thoughts on Adam Schefter's cliffhanger that he dropped on 97.5 The Fanatic yesterday. Let's get to our sponsor. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. Since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Find your community on PrizePicks. With the new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends, copy lineups from winners with a single click, and you can copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You could even follow PrizePicks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. New feature alert, PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. 4-pick power play for the big game. Drake May, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Sam Darnold, Stephon Diggs. We're going more on all of them. May for the passing touchdowns. JSN and Diggs on the receiving yards. And then Sam Darnold as well for the passing touchdowns too. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's move ahead here on the show. Some big news dropped last night from Jeff McClain. And I'm trying to pull up a tweet right here to look at how the run game offensive elements have worked under Jeff Stoutland. If I can't pull it up now, we'll get to it a little bit later. But the Eagles making a coaching staff change. Jeff Stoutland, according to Jeff McClain, is expected to be back as offensive line coach in 2026, but not as a run game coordinator. And this is something that I talked about last week. Another potential holdup in the Eagles offensive coordinator search, why some candidates might not want the job, Jeff Stoutland. Of course, he's one of the most respected offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL, but he's also the Eagles run game coordinator. A lot of OCs, understandably so, want full control of the offense and want to bring in their own run game coordinators to fit their scheme and play calling. But the Eagles want to keep Stoutland, as they should. He's a legend. This was another tweet that went viral, and everybody thought I was criticizing Jeff Stoutland. The attention span of people these days is awful. They couldn't make it until the end of the tweet when I said the Eagles want to keep Stoutland, and they should. He's a legend. And he's been a huge reason why the Eagles have been so successful as an organization of late. The run game, but the development of offensive linemen. Now, here's what McClain said on his podcast. From what I understand, at some point last year, the run game coordinator duties pretty much taken away from him. I don't know if that was because he wasn't getting the job done or they just decided, okay, we're better at doing this. If you look at prior to this year, how well they ran the ball and Jeff Stoutland being in charge of the run game, you'd think you'd stick with the guy who has had that much success. As we mentioned, there were injuries along the offensive line. So I think, quite frankly, talking to people in the building, people close to him, people in the room with him, the players, I don't think Stoutland was anywhere near chiefly responsible for the woes along the offensive line and the run game. Certainly he's part of it and he's responsible for them. So even he would say, yeah, I got to do a better job. And I've seen some people say Stoutland has escaped criticism for the bad offensive line play this past year. I actually think it's because the Eagles were so banged up front. Jason Kelce was on 94 WIP in Philadelphia this morning, and he did say one of his frustrations when he played for the Eagles is how everybody had all these different roles within the offense. You had the offensive coordinator, you had Nick Sirianni, you had Jeff Stoutland as the offensive line coach, and then you had Stoutland as the run game coordinator. You had the pass game coordinator having some say, quarterbacks coach, some of these other coaches also handling like red zone duties, third down. That can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing when things aren't going well. And that's what Kelce kind of talked about, because there are so many voices. And then if you have a guy like Kevin Patullo, who's inexperienced, in over his skis, he was probably overwhelmed with all the different voices in his head. And I found that tweet. Since Jeff Stoutland was named run game coordinator in 2018, Eagles rushing attack is finished. 29th, 11th, 10th, 1st, 4th, 9th, 2nd, this past year, 16th. I don't think it's a Stoutland issue, but again, an OC who comes in here might want to have their own run game coordinator. totally understand that with the play calling, the scheme, and the play designs, and all of the nuances and intricacies of that. Don't forget to give me a follow on social media. X, Instagram, TikTok, at Chase_Senior. You can find me on Facebook, Chase Senior Chat Sports. Get me to 10,000 followers on TikTok before we head out west for the Super Bowl. In addition to giving you fantastic Eagles coverage right here on YouTube, we're humming on social media as well. All right, Adam Schefter dropped that bombshell, that cliffhanger yesterday on 97.5 The Fanatic. He was about to sign off with Andrew Salchunas and John Kincaid, both friends of the show. Had brunch with John Kincaid at Market Street Grill to start off 2026 in Westchester a couple of weeks ago. They do a great job with their show. And before Schefter was about to sign off, he's like, yeah, on top of this Eagles offensive coordinator news that could drop next week, there could be some more news that potentially drops next week. What was Adam Schefter alluding to? I've reached out to some people. Other people have done some reporting. And these are kind of the theories that are being floated out there. And these are some of the things that I reached out to people trying to gather intel on. Is Lane Johnson going to retire? He's 35. He's a future Hall of Famer. One of the best players in the history of the Eagles organization. I've heard that's unlikely, although you can't completely rule it out. I expect Lane Johnson to be back in 2026. Nothing firm there. Could Vic Fangio retire? This would be organizational malpractice for the Eagles to let Christian Parker take the Cowboys DC job and then just let Vic Fangio retire. Now, Vic Fangio may have had a change of heart over the last week, but Christian Parker is a Vic Fangio protege. If Fangio had any inclination that his career as a coach was over, I don't think he lets Christian Parker out of the building. That would literally make no sense. But Mike Garafolo did say, I haven't heard anything that he's going to retire or not going to retire. After the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he was telling people, it's been great working with you, and then he came back. He's, of course, longer in the tooth and older. Jeff Stoutland retiring. That's not going to happen. He's expected to return, according to Jeff McClain. Is Nick Sirianni going to get fired? I would be floored by this. He's been sitting in on all these OC interviews. He has big say in who the Eagles will hire as OC. This late in the process, with some good head coaches off the board, you're going to fire Nick Sirianni? Is A.J. Brown going to get traded? That literally can't happen until the new league year gets underway in March, which brings us to this. Are the Eagles going to announce the construction of a new stadium at some point, like literally over the next decade? I think that could be the announcement. The Eagles sent a memo out to season ticket holders gauging their interest in a potential new stadium. They were asking Eagles season ticket holders where they would want it, if they would want a dome. Of course, a retractable roof is something that is being thrown out there as well. So we had some fun with this. Thanks to some AI models, I spent about 20 minutes putting together a brand new Philadelphia Eagles stadium that could open up at some point in the mid-2030s. And Jeffrey Lurie has said, I want to have Philadelphia host a Super Bowl. The only way they can host a Super Bowl because of cold weather and bad weather potentially in February is to have either a dome or a retractable roof. I'd love a retractable roof. An important note on this, the NFL controls when it's open, when it's closed. So you would get some outdoor games with the roof open as long as it's like sunny in September at points in October. As soon as it gets cold, I think the temperature is like sub 50 degrees, sub 45 degrees, that thing's going to be closed. Pluses and minuses of that, and we've talked about this on the show. But I love this design, first of all. I love the location. Still in South Philadelphia. You still have the best tailgating scene in the entire United States. It could still be in the South Philadelphia Sports Complex. You have the retractable roof. It's a modern design as well, and you have that natural grass surface. Let me know what you think about that down in the comment section right now. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We continue to give you stellar content right here on Philadelphia Eagles Now, and we're not going anywhere.